All right, we're going to go ahead and edit some of our water movement images. My dog's decided to bark. Okay, so we're going to go here and click on select one, or you can go to open. We're going to go into Google Drive, My Drive. We're going to look for our digital photo folder here. And then you should have downloaded into a folder in your drive some images that are in the shared drive. I'll give you that link to the shared drive so that you can download the images into your folder here. So you want to go create a folder called Water Movement Edit Practice Images. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and you just see 3 images in here. And we're going to start with this one here. Go ahead and open it. And it's going to automatically open up our raw camera file here, okay? Because this is a CR2 file, a raw camera file, and we're going to be just editing the basic and the detail, okay? But also, I want to show you something kind of cool. I want to get rid of this. So this is larger, and also I want to split this so we can have a before and after, okay? So we're going to click on basic, and you're going to notice that there's a bunch of different options. So, maybe you don't really want to adjust the temperature, or maybe you want to just make it a little warmer. So I'm going to move it a little bit up, and then leave that about there. Exposure looks pretty good. I mean, I could make it a little brighter. Contrast, maybe add a little more contrast. Look at the highlights. Maybe bring the highlights down just a little. Shadows, right about there. Whites, I don't think I need to adjust that really. Blacks, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to add a little bit of clarity, just make it a little sharper, maybe +20. I'm going to add a little bit of dehaze, which is going to kind of dehaze mostly in the right top corner. And we can start to compare this to the before, and it's definitely looking better. We're going to come over here, and we're going to add a little bit of vibrance, which is going to just pop the color, a little bit of saturation. Here's the before, here is the after. And now we're going to go and close the basic, and we're going to go to detail, and we're going to just sharpen the image a little bit, add a little bit of noise reduction, and a little bit of the color noise reduction as well, and close that up. And so we can see the before and after. And so now we're going to come over here and click on convert and save image. So what's going to happen is you're going to save image in a location, in the same location where you just opened, it should be My Drive, Digital Photo, Water Movement, Edit Practice Images. Let's give it a document name. Let's call it, Water Droplets on underscore your first initial, last name. There we go, Water Droplets. Or we could just call it Water Droplets on Glass. So WOG, Water Droplets on glass. So we could just say Water Droplets on Glass, WDG underscore C Salines. I think that's a much cleaner file name. The file extension is going to be PSD. So you want to make sure we select PSD for our file extension. So it's Photoshop format. And we're going to click on save. Okay. So now we're going to escape. What I want you to do is just click on the escape, and it says cancel all changes and dismiss the camera raw. Say no. We're just going to escape. And there we go. Now we're out of there. And now we're going to come over here and we're going to open. And we're going to open up this PSD file that we just saved. And we're going to go to open. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we have our Photoshop set up the way we want it. We're going to go to Windows and we're going to click Layers because we want to make sure we have our layers showing here. We want our vertical toolbar. And in fact, we can go over here to Workspace if we want and just select Photography. And that will make it so that this is optimal for editing and photography. This right here is our history. So if we want to undo something we don't like, we can. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and right click and we're going to duplicate this layer and we're just going to call it Retouch. And what we're going to do, actually, I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this Blur. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to blur this image a little bit. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to come up here to Filter. And I'm going to come over here to Blur. We're going to go to Surface Blur. And we're going to add a little bit of a surface blur to the image. Okay. And what that's going to do is it's going to soften the background a little bit. Okay. So I did like you can kind of play with the threshold a little bit. And so that it's still a little bit sharper and you can play with the pixels, the radius here. Maybe let's do it at 50 and maybe a threshold of like, let's do 60. That's good. And we're going to click OK. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a layer mask to the blur, and we're going to remove some of the blur from the actual water droplets. Okay. So it's thinking, which is fine. Let it think. And then we're going to come over here and add a layer mask. Okay, we're going to add a layer mask to that. And we're going to come over here and use our brush tool. And we're going to select general brushes. And we're going to get a nice soft round brush. And we can see how big that is. Maybe about the size of one of our little water droplets. Maybe half the size of it might be good. And we're going to just bring our opacity down about 50% here. And we're going to make sure that here's our vertical toolbox. We want to make sure that we have on our vertical toolbox, I'm going to just make it like that so I can see it a little better. We want to have black over white, so we can move this little toggle up and down to have black over white. We're going to select our layer, our layer mask, and now we're going to go in here and we're going to remove all the Gaussian blur. I mean, not the Gaussian blur, the surface blur on our water drops that that we want sharp. Don't worry about the edges so much, just the center. And, you know, change up your brush size by using your bracket key. And make sure your items that you have in those drops are nice and sharp. And you can see that the layer mask is starting to have like little polka dots on it, little gray polka dots. I'm using my bracket key to make everything nice and sharp here in the middle. And I'm going to have these and okay. Just stay inside the drops only. Do not go to the edge. And then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that layer. We're going to call it retouch. And it's going to also duplicate the layer mask. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click on the retouch layer and we're going to go in with the cloning tool. We're going to zoom in, Control plus, and let's also open up our navigator. So if we go to Window and we open up Navigator, that'll let us move this around. And we're going to get rid of some of these little dots that we don't want by clicking on our cloning tool and just getting rid of it like that. And I recommend that you put your opacity on your cloning tool down to about 50% so that you don't overdo it on the cloning. Yeah, I'm at home doing these videos today. We're just kind of clean it up a little bit and get rid of some of these dots on the glass that are, you know, these water droplets that are kind of messy and really don't enhance the composition very much. So I'm getting rid of them. But the main thing is we don't want to mess up the pencil design on here. Let's kind of back out, Control minus, and just kind of back out a little bit. Control plus and kind of zoom in a little bit so we can kind of look at the difference here. Here's before, here's after. We can see that the pencils are a little deformed a little bit there. So let's see if I can fix that a little bit by just kind of cloning this and then bringing it down a little bit straight down. Oh yeah, that's much better. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Okay, that's a lot better. And I just want to go in and go Control plus and use my navigator and move it over here now and get rid of some of these little water droplets that just do not work on the image at all. And this one right here. And maybe even some little dust spots and things that I see here that are little tiny macro sized water droplets that I don't want, that are just so tiny, like that one there. And I just keep moving this around. There's one there. And then let's back up and look at this. And if we like turn off our layers, we can see here's like the original. Here's with the blur. And then here's with the retouch. Now I might go in and remove some of the blur from this water droplet here, which means I'm going to have to remove it from both layers, okay? Because I've got 2 layer masks, so I'll have to also come down onto this layer and just kind of remove some of that from the edge a little bit. So you may have to do it on both layers if you feel like it just doesn't have enough of the gauze, the surface blur removed. Okay. And then you are done. And so this is what I want you to do. Be really meticulous in editing.